your efforts to engage the public or the community?
No, first of all, well, just really quickly, raise your hand if you are having a problem with a bully. And it doesn't have to come across as like that, but it could be somebody that you just can't say no to. You understand? Because they're going to manipulate and control you to change your mind. That's a bully because you've already said no, but their goal is to change your mind. And my thing is, ask yourself the question on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, how do you handle a bully?
Are there any challenges that you have faced where you want to say, how do you deal with this?
Well, this happens every day in companies, so the issue is maybe you're able to deal with them and maybe you're able to just settle for winning the battle rather than the war. But
yes.
The most difficult thing, at least for me, is to take that as negative energy that then you take back even to your own personal life and get that distance and continue to keep positive.
Yes.
I think that's a big challenge.
I'm sorry. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, I want you to put a question.
You can speak from up there.
Could you do the question just one more time?
Yeah, it was more of a comment. I think she was saying that you want to stay positive, right? That when, and so I guess the question behind that is that how do you keep yourself positive when it seems like every day at work there's a bully who's trying to tell you, no, we can't reach out to the public, no, we can't.
Well, let me just say this real quick, because I have to deal with, fortunately, I have to deal with bullies on a consistent basis from one end of the spectrum to the other, because not only am I dealing with institutional bullies, I'm also dealing with the community directly, and we got some bullies in there, meaning you can't go and think you're gonna have a meeting or something and not have one person be a bully or stand up and say something against what you're trying to give. And so the question is, how do you get to that point in which you're able to effectively manage yourself through that situation? I will tell you this much. What I love is, another suggestion that I'm gonna make is believe in a higher power greater than yourself. Let me say that again. Believe in a higher power greater than yourself. The way in which I go about developing that skill set so that when I do face a life challenge that, okay, this is beyond me. What I do is on a consistent basis, I'm developing that relationship with that power within, is what I'm saying to you all. So that when you do get into that situation, you're prepared mentally, spiritually, psychologically, and you know exactly what to do and you don't allow it to overwhelm you, is the point. But thank you very much for that.
So the second question is about, are you clear on your timelines? Are you clear on your deliverables? We all think that we are, but I find that because this is a new world of engagement, that sometimes we suggest that we want to engage and we try to get corporate buy-in, but then people start asking questions like, well, how are you going to do this? Or the big question, is this, aligned with regulatory compliance? And make sure that you take those deadlines seriously. Make sure that you're prepared to answer those questions. Make sure that you've done what you need to do. And then the third one is related to this. I hear all the time from people.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
1 second.
Let me just
Go ahead.
talk to you. So the issue is that the clinical development in our country isn't on board with this. And the idea is that it's their fault. And you didn't build into your timelines that you needed to educate them, and then you're upset with them that they don't vote to give you hundreds of thousands of dollars to do your project, right? And so tying these two together, understanding the process that would be involved, and understanding that both internally and externally, those partners, whether it's patients in the public or whether it's clinical development and regulatory, have you engaged those partners and kept them up to date? Because that is an essential component of this as well. Any questions about that, or back to my questions? Or how many of you have had this where you just feel like, even though you're for the same company, these partners of yours internally don't seem to be kind of on board and you're having trouble getting their attention? Anybody?
So I'm a director for health economics and outcomes research at a pharmaceutical company in the U.S. and we have offices all over the world. But one of the things that I guess I'm charged with a lot. So we have requests from our commercial organization for how can we properly design a study that we can go out and talk about and we can, we can promote. If it's not published, then commercial isn't allowed to talk about it. And I find often they come into these meetings with preconceived notions about how a study should be designed, what are the proper endpoints, and then I come in with more of a, scientific is not the right word, but I'm going to use it, scientific approach of how we need to really design a study, how do we need to define our endpoints, and it's not always aligned. And that's challenging. So I have to come in sometimes and say, I understand what you're asking for, but that's not the way to get it. Here's an alternate proposal. And sometimes those dialogues are difficult. They take a lot of time. And like Dan said, there's an educational component that will go along with it. And in some organizations, it might be even more challenging. We sit in the medical unit, so we're not in commercial, but there are some outcomes groups that sit within commercial, which makes designing these studies even more challenging, especially if we want to do any kind of pragmatic trial or anything where we reach out to patients.
Well, I want to say thank you, first of all.
What I love is you say you're the director. My point is, you don't have to take the right to it. My point is, so that means you have a team of people that you have to deal with on a consistent basis. And this is what I also want to say for the leaders or, management people who are managing the projects. I want to keep it short. Thing is, like Dr. Mullen has to manage several people between his university and the community. And so everything basically has to be in a line. And they are. Because I'm gonna let him speak about his experience with Mount Lebanon Baptist Church. But it really was about also making sure that the people that are on your team, if you're the leader, and just as an example, what I want to put on the table, if somebody on the team is not stepping up, how do you handle that situation? Well, I can tell you how I handle it, because what I understand is that regardless of how I love, respect, and appreciate you, but these deliverables are not done. And this is like the 4th or 5th time. Now, what I do is normally, to be honest with you, I like to hear people the first time. So it's a lot easier if you have to let them go, when you recognize bad behavior earlier on in the relationship and say, okay, wow, you need to start saying something, number one, directly to the person, and then you have to start writing them up, which a lot of times, a lot of us have a problem writing up people, but look at it this way. But if you have a person on the team who is not stepping up and they're required for the success of the project, well, then what are you going to do? Are you going to continue to allow that person to drain the energy and take everybody off focus, or are you going to pull that individual up and say, you need to make a decision because this is the direction that we're moving in? And you as a leader need to be able to articulate that energy and also articulate that visual. So thank you. But also keep people on that point about the deliverables, because a lot of times things slip through the crack and the project is over. And well, what was the deliverable and what was the final analysis? Well, nobody knows. So always keep people on point with knowing your deliverables, knowing your timeline, and what's required in order to accomplish the project.
Yeah, I'll comment on a couple of things that I've seen with companies. One is that no matter how many times you say it, what people hear is that you can help them to recruit a diverse group of patients. They think that that's your job. And so that's where the education comes in. How do we make sure that people are aware of what you are doing? You're trying to help design a more patient-centered protocol, or you're trying to help select outcomes, or you're trying to kind of reframe something so that patients can understand it. I find a lot of times people think that my job is to help them recruit for clinical trials, and I tell them that's not our job, but you don't want to be doing that after you're involved in the research, so making sure everybody's clear up front. I think it's equally important that if you are engaging groups, that consistency matters. So for those of you who ask about this, my experiences are that sometimes you're better off trying to find a broader group of individuals rather than disease specific, right? So I think the first thing people do is they run to the patient advocacy group that's in the disease state that they're trying to do, they're studying. and you try to develop that relationship. And then your company goes on to another therapeutic area, and you try to develop that next relationship. And so it is understanding that this is, something that takes time, and that you may want to, either develop those relationships as a company with a broader group of constituents, or you may want to connect with those who have already developed those relationships, because you can't try to just kind of force things to happen. That gets back to the timelines, and it is also about making sure that you keep people responsible, that once you decide what you're doing, though, that then you are responsible for that authentic engagement.
Thank you. The next thing that I'd like to speak about is psychological deficiencies. Dr. Mullins, maybe you could go around the room and ask somebody, what is your psychological deficiency? I can tell you what mine is.
What's the psychological deficiency in your institution where people are resistant to change? And then we'll get to you. Right? So many of you have said that, I work for a company, the company is just not ready for this. So anybody want to kind of describe what you see as a deficiency where, even though we all say we need to be more patient-centered, anytime we try to do it, it seems like somebody's, oh no, somebody, or you can tell a story about another company so that in case somebody in the room is at your company, but come on, who's willing to kind of talk about an issue that you have faced where despite your best efforts, you feel that you just make no progress in terms of moving the needle forward? Share? Did you have something you'd share?
As I'm directly not involved in, dealing with the patients or patients' engagement, but there are a few times when people are not so much open about new ideas, or they are not ready to accept a new way, a new approach. So that's what I think.
Well, what do you do when, it's even within your company, people they are not open to a new idea or a new approach. This is the way we do it. We work for this company. When we hired you, we told you who you're working for. What's your response?
So let me just get clear on the question real quick. My interpretation of it is, how do you deal with the team members or a company that is not really on board with your vision and the direction that you want to go in?
This change towards patient-centeredness.
Oh, okay.
We propose it, and then people just, in the company, they're just not on board. That's not the way we do things here.
Right, and let me just say this real quick about that. I always feel like the clearer, is that a word? The more clear that the leader is, then the easier it will be. The more of yourself that you bring into your presentation, the more that they're going to be motivated to engage with you. And they're going to be invested, because you also have to show them this is an investment that yes, we need to receive the information and the data, but when you go and look at my web platform, if even you just give people that, at least it's an exchange. And people are very consciously aware of when you're conscious of them. And so I hope I answered that question.
Next slide.
But my question is this, and this is being in meetings like this, I could go around the room, but I'm not. I could say, well, what is your psychological deficiency? Some of you would probably say, oh no, I don't have any. And then I would just take you through the last 24 hours and show you how different psychological deficiencies can block you from either doing a great presentation or showing up on time or having the deliverable, okay? And so my point basically is just what is your psychological deficiencies? In most cases, I can tell you what mine is. And I had to come out of denial about this. Two things. One is addressing my fears, doubts, and insecurities, and they get played out on a consistent basis in my personal life and in my professional life. So if I'm not working on those things on a consistent basis, after coming out of denial and saying, no, you have to work on your presentational skill set. No, my other deficiency is relationships with people. And I really had to get that right, because my business is based in being able to connect and relate to people on a consistent basis. The psychological deficiency comes where rather it's fear of how the person is going to perceive me, rather it's doubt because I'm not 100% sure about my presentation. So these elements come out and get played out in many ways in your life. You need to be able to call yourself up on your fears, doubts, and insecurities and know how you're going to address and deal with them. The way I address and deal with them on a consistent basis is this. because this is about building. Like I said, the affirmations are in the book, but it's things like this. I am courageous. I fear nothing or no one. I am the presence and the power of love. Love is the most powerful force on earth. Therefore, I am powerful enough to overcome my fears, doubts, and insecurities to achieve my heart desires. I can do all things with love that supports and strengthens me. Lastly, one of my favorites, I only have loving relationships with everyone, family, friends, enemies, the world. I love, respect, and appreciate myself. Therefore, I treat everyone with love and respect. I no longer feel the need to please people or understand why they do what they do. Energy waster. I accept people for who they are because I know who I am. I give love, I give love, I give love. And so you have to remember, if you're putting this kind of dialogue into your mind on a consistent basis, what you'll ultimately find, you'll be able to go anywhere in the world and people will receive you because they will feel your energy. They will know that you have a concept about who you are, your purpose in the world, etc. And so I didn't mean to divert too much, but yes. Next.
I think at the beginning of the session, and we went out and just said hello. It's something that's been important for me in my work. I work in communities that are very distrustful of researchers, and there is something about being present. But that does mean, one, getting over the fact that you're afraid that you're going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. And so one of the things that I try to remind people is you will say the wrong thing and you will do the wrong thing. But when people understand that you actually are trying to improve health, then they work with you. And so whether it's the pastor of the church, whether it's the nurses at the community hospital that we work with, they'll pull me aside and say, here's how I think we might want to do it, in this community. And so be open to the fact that there are these partners out there. Because people always ask, how do you do this? Find the partners who are going to help you to be more patient-centered in whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Thank you. I just wanted to point back to a note. Whenever you all are designing a study or any kind of a project, one of the things that I think is key is to make sure that you have a collective consciousness level of voices. Now, Dr. Mullins, can you tell everyone what that means?
I mean, it's, it is that sense that when you start, just like with a clinical trial, you have a protocol, and each of the sites is trained in that protocol. Each of the sites understands what you're trying to do, they understand the objectives, they understand how to fill out the forms. And so the same thing is true in a patient-centered. We need to make sure that everybody understands what is the protocol, everybody understands what are we trying to do, so that we have this shared vision, same as if we're doing a clinical trial. And a lot of what we say is very simple, but it's amazing how once we get into a patient-centered research, and I tend to think in terms of trials as opposed to other, I think what happens is we tend to go off, we tend to decide what we're going to do, and then we magically expect that it's going to happen, but we haven't brought everybody along. It would be like handing the clinical data report form binder to the site and saying, yeah, go ahead and do the trial. It really is at that level, right? That people need to be trained in what are we trying to do, how are we trying to do this, where did these outcomes come from, what is the higher vision? And I can't tell you the importance, and we heard it before, about the training of everyone who is involved in these studies, not just the patients, but your colleagues in whatever departments they're in. Any questions about that?
Because you always want to make sure the people that you're working with are, in a sense, especially when you're talking about next level community engagement, you want to work with people that are passionate about the higher vision. And like I said before, it's our job to be able to give people that higher vision that would motivate and empower them to want to participate or to want to engage. The point that I wanted to make sure that I made clear, I think somebody said it earlier, it's also important, once again, when we talk about taking a holistic approach to things. Can somebody give that back to me? Because somewhere along the line, I think is not clear. When I say holistic approach, okay, let's talk about community engagement for a minute. How are you going to be effective? This slide is not up here, but how are you going to do it is a question. When I say holistic approach, when I have to teach people or something like that, my number one goal is to first talk about health, relationships, advancement, and my money. Because those are the 4 important elements. Your health is important. You can't do anything without it. Your ability to have a successful relationship with yourself as well as with other people is extremely important to the success of your project. Your advancement is really being clear on, well, what is your next level goal and objective, Marvin? Well, mine is I want a network. I want a television network. And I want it to just have consistent flow of positive information. That's kind of like one of the items on my web platform. I'm in the process of developing it. I'm getting better at the production. Again, to keep people engaged and to also not be long-winded. But I just want to really quickly, if you could pull that video of one of my favorite people in the world, Michelle. The question is, how do you deal with the haters? Oh, I'm sorry.
Now, are we on the same page?
You all know what I mean when I say how do you deal with the haters.
You mentioned a moment ago